Alrighty, so this is Jordan Peterson and Tony Robbins talking about someone else's reasons won't drive you. I feel like what they are talking about in this is a lot about, so yes, it's about motivation, but I think it's also about, like, what do you do when you run out of reasons to do what you want to do? So, like, when you're in the trenches and you're like, why should I just not give up, right? Whatever it is that you want to do, and you're just like, holy crap, this is too hard, and you feel like giving up. This is what you could do. And they talk about this, and I think that they make a lot of great points. Let's watch it.
If you're increasing the energy and you're simultaneously getting people to configure their goals, and those two things are happening at the same time, that should increase the probability that the goals that they adopt will be instantiated permanently into memory. And then,
so I love how like eloquent Jordan Peterson is when he speaks. I had to rewatch this a few times to figure out what it is that he was saying. A lot of you may have gotten it the first time. Okay, so what I think that he's saying here is that when you pair an event or some physical feeling of like high energy, and that could manifest as positive energy, negative energy, excitement energy, whatever it is, right? When you pair something that's high energy with whatever emotion it maybe have come with, okay, with your goal, then that's when it goes into your subconscious and it sticks. So I think a lot of people forget their goals, or they get in the groove of something and they forget what it was that got them to start doing it. Like they just forgot they get distracted and they're like, oh yeah, I did want to do that. It's like when you look back at like a journal or a diary from when you were a kid, and I don't know, here's an example. Like when I was a kid, it's like, I want to be a plastic surgeon. And that was one of the things that I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I did want to do that. But life happens and you forget. So I think like what he's saying, if you pair it with a high emotion with your goal, it can stick into your subconscious.
it's also not exactly the kind of memory that you would call to mind to talk about. It's the kind of memory that you see the world through.
Yes.
So that's that's procedural memory.
So that means like whenever something happens to you, or you experience something, or you're deciding what to do in any given situation, you run it through the filter of how is it going to help me reach my goal? Okay? So you're like, you end up strategizing, I think, even like subconsciously. If it's that deeply ingrained, then you end up strategizing. And isn't that like much nicer if you can strategize with the part of your brain that isn't used as often, rather than having to like actively think about it all the time? I think that would make it a lot easier to accomplish my goals.
It's a completely different kind of memory.
And your goals, potentially.
I get it.
It's the kind of memory that, so let's say you practice applying a certain framework of interpretation to your circumstances.
Yes.
Okay, that practice reconfigures procedural memory, and that's literally that's the rewiring of the system through which you view the world.
That's correct.
Right.
And when you have a new view of the world, you come up with new meanings. And meanings, as you know, we both know, you did maps of meaning.
Here's an example that I just thought of about meaning that you derive from different experiences, and an example of mindset. Okay. So there's a story or a parable, or however you want to call it, where there's two young men, and they're brothers, and they have the same dad, right? So their dad is an alcoholic, and one of the brothers ends up being squeaky clean. He never drank any alcohol in his life, and maybe he's on his way to being successful, whatever. Okay, and the other brother becomes an alcoholic just like his father. Okay, and according to the story, I don't know if this really happened, but it's a good story, and I think it helps, like a parable, right? It helps. So, according to the story, someone comes up to them, and let's say to the successful brother who is not drinking, he asks, "Why are you the way that you are? Like, why did you choose not to drink?" And then his answer, interestingly enough, was, "With a father like mine, how could I have chosen anything else?" Right. So the thought process, the lens through which he sees the world is, wow, I saw that my dad was so, like, I don't know, unsuccessful because he was an alcoholic. So, oh my goodness, obviously I should choose the other path and never do that because, you know, we have the same genetics, or, you know, we share at least half of our genetics. So, like, what makes me think I wouldn't end up being an alcoholic too, right? So, again, one way of seeing the world. Now, that same guy goes and asks the other brother, why did you make the decisions that you did? Like, why are you the way that you are? Like, why do you drink? You know, like, why are you an alcoholic? Whatever. However, he asks the question. It's just a parable. Or, you know, according to the story, whatever. So, this second brother that is also an alcoholic, just like his dad, guess what his answer was? With a dad like mine, how could I be anything else? How could I have chosen anything else? Now, his line of thinking and his view of the world is that that's all he's ever known, is someone who drinks. I don't know. I can't even pretend to understand that exact mindset. Like, I don't drink. I've never drinking alcohol, as far as I know. I don't think I have. But yeah. So, but in his view, it's like, how could I be anything else? I'm just like my father. Of course I'd be just like my father, right? So, like, his lens is, how could I choose anything else, right? But again, that was the same answer as the other brother. How could I be anything else? But his lens through which he saw the world was completely different. So some people may get mad and be like, I've heard that before. Of people saying, like, it's in order to become wealthy, like, you need to change your mindset. Your mindset. Some people find that really annoying because, like, they hear it, but they don't understand what that means. And they're like, okay, it's like this, you know, wishy-washy idea. Okay, how do I actually change my mindset? And I think this is one clue of one way that you could do that is, so, like, let's say you put yourself out there. You allow yourself the opportunity by putting yourself out there, by going to new places, by meeting new people, to have either a positive or a negative experience that's going to shape you, that's going to give you that high energy situation that would allow you to make a decision or a goal and have it be programmed in your subconscious. You could say that that's what trauma is. You could also say that's what being, like, inspired is, like, in the moment, like, you see something that just, like, hits your soul and, you know, like, you're never the same because, like, wow, that was amazing, right? So yeah, that's one strategy.
Entire life has been, you know, I remember reading Man's Search for Meaning. I'm actually making the film. And it was one of the books that influenced.
I wonder what the film, I think this is a recent video. I wonder what this film's going to look like. Maybe I'd want to watch it.
The most, because the ability to find meaning even in the most difficult time. And Viktor Frankl, to me, is just a godsend to this planet.
Most people it's a great book.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's great.
If you haven't read it, please, whoever you're listening, read it. Or anybody's
That's
ever.
Man's Search for Meaning. Yes, read that book.
It's incredible. But the point of your meanings change, your focus and your meanings change when your energy shifts. And so it's so fundamental to bring that energy up. And most people have no reference for it in their.
You know, this makes me think of something. Okay. Here's something that I cannot stand that people will say. They'll say something like, well, in the 21st century, we still have these instincts that our ancestors, those barbarians, used to need. But because we live in the world we do, we're not, you know, running from lions. We're not so primitive as we used to be. Give me a break. Give me a break. Oh my gosh. I do not like it when people talk like that. It's like they're trying to disconnect you from your own body. And it's been regurgitated so much that it's like people who say it now probably don't mean that, or they don't see it that way potentially, and it may not be, like, malicious or anything like that. But, like, seriously though, we have our instincts and we have our bodies so we can work with our bodies. And our bodies give us abilities. They give us eyes so we can see things, right? That's an ability. You know, there's what people call like a sixth sense or like intuition, or like, have you ever had that feeling where like you feel like someone's looking at you and then you turn and someone is looking at you? How do you explain that? But if you buy into these ideas that, oh, well, we're not so primitive anymore, and like, you know, we've risen above that, and we don't really need our instincts, but we just have to put up with them. But it's just like trying to tell you to like, all you should do is like suppress them or never trust your own instincts or like, or ever like learn anything from your body, or like allow your body to help you. I don't know. Like, isn't that weird? Like, how does that make any sense? There are people who die of lions still. There are people who starve even in cities. What in the world kind of thinking is that? What in the world? What, like, I've been through experiences that showed me my own humanity, meaning like, I will die one day, right? Like, I'm not invincible. I'm a mortal human being at the moment. And like, I don't understand. It's like, what do you think you are? Living in a computer? Like, yes, this is a test, so I get that, you know, we'll go into like the deeper philosophy at some other point as far as like what this world is on like a larger level. But like, when something happens to you, like it happens to you, I don't know. Your body is so amazing. You have intuition, you have these physical experiences, you have muscle memory. Like, your body can help you. If you practice stuff, your body will do it by itself. There are things that your body can do by itself if you train it. This is going to sound weird, but it's like training a dog. So you have your conscience, but you have to work with your body. Okay? You're training this dog-like thing, which is our physical body. You know, when you have a puppy, it's like going all over the place. It's like pooping over here, peeing over here, chewing everything up. Your body wants to do that, right? Like, our desires to procreate, like you see like dogs that are not disciplined and whatever, they're just like going ham on a pillowcase. It's like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? This is what you do with your body, is that you train it. If you feel like you can't control your body, it's because you're not disciplining your body. This may sound weird, but you need to treat your body like it's a little separate from you. Like, there's your conscience and your body, and they are separate. Okay? That's like kind of weird. But how many times have you wanted to do something, but your body goes rogue and sabotages you? Like, let's say you're like, oh, I want to actually say my opinion in this meeting. And then you get the chance and your body freezes and doesn't let you say what you wanted to say in that meeting, right? Or like, do you know what I mean? When your mind is like, I wanted to say something, but your body won't let you. Or it just goes rogue and you're like, I don't know what just happened. Or like you let your desires get the best of you, okay? So we have instincts, our body. We need to work with those instincts. And they are not useless in today's day and age. Like, they want to make you believe that it is. Okay? Like these like modernist whatever. Oh, brother. Like, that is not even close to reality. You will get the fullest experience of life and the most fulfillment if you include your body. Like, in the war in heaven, okay, before we were born, that was one of the desirable things of actually coming to Earth. That's something that we wanted, was to have a body. Those that went with Satan, they did not get a body. They were pretty mad about that. And that's their number one goal, is they want a body. Okay? You cannot gain full wisdom without your body. Here's the thing. As angels, or, before we came to this earth, we could learn all sorts of stuff, okay? But it's kind of like a video game. When you have no skin in the game, when you're not actually going to get hurt, you just respawn or whatever, you think about the world in a totally different way. Okay? When you're actually in it and you have stuff to lose and you could die, right? You think about the same things totally differently. And then you can gain wisdom, and that is how you can develop spiritually, is with your body. So you could do all the studying that you want, but if you never actually apply it, it will profit you nothing. Like, studying is good, okay? You should become smart. You should learn stuff. You should know a bunch of stuff that's like useful knowledge, But if you become slothful and all you do is have these theories and you never do anything with them, what was the point? Like, yeah, you're going to have your knowledge after you die too. So that's why knowledge is valuable, right? But that's the whole point of why would we need a body in the first place if you could just get by with knowledge? You wouldn't. Why in the world would an angel want a body? Right? You think having a body comes with all these problems. My body wants this. My body wants that. It's hungry. It's tired. It's thirsty. And I'm like, holy crap. Calm it down. We're going to do this and you're going to listen to me, body. Right? That sounds so weird, but it's true. So fasting is a way to train your body. So, like training a dog, you're telling your body no, and you're focusing on your actual goal. So when you fast, you're fasting for something. Like you pray beforehand and you're asking for something. So you're training your body to focus on your goal rather than to just get distracted by everything that it wants, right? So again, and then to summarize my rant or whatever on that, let's say you do train your body, okay? And you have your body under your control. What do you gain from that? You gain more fulfillment than you could ever imagine. The feeling that you get is so fulfilling and so good. So you're like, why shouldn't I be a NEET? That's a Japanese term, like no education, like they not providing, not going on a job or whatever. And NEET is someone who just takes themselves out of society, stays in their house, plays video games, stuff like that. Okay. So you're like, okay, why shouldn't I just be hedonistic? Why should I just not be a NEET? Right? Because you will not get the full experience of life that way. It'll feel empty. If you have ever watched anime? Have you ever watched anime? The reincarnation ones, where they die at their job or right after they get home from their job. And they're like, oh, wow, I was a corporate slave my whole life. Or, I just played video games and I never did anything. But I have this second chance in this other world that happens to be in the medieval times with magic and all that stuff. And I'm going to make the most out of it. And then they have the adventure of a lifetime. It's hard and they defeat monsters and whatever. But holy crap, it's exciting. And it's so exciting that you want to watch it as a viewer. Have you ever wondered why? Maybe because that's our call to life. That's what we're meant to do in life. So don't be a coward. Right? If you want to feel fulfilled, you have to do stuff. And I don't mean video games. Okay, let me clarify what I mean by doing stuff. You have to involve your body. Let's say going for a hike, biking, going around, seeing new places in person, smelling new smells, like you go to a garden and you can smell the flowers, or seeing new sights. Let's say you go to the top of Tokyo Tower or something, right? You need to include your body to feel fulfilled. So like even physical labor, if you, I don't know, are working on a project and you're building a cool castle out of popsicle sticks, and then you finish that castle and your hands are sore and you've got hot glue gun stain, burns on your hands. But at the end, you've got this cool castle that you built. And you're like, wow, that was awesome. Do you know what I mean? And then it doesn't matter that you got a little hurt. It doesn't matter that it was hard. It doesn't matter that you put yourself out there socially and it was uncomfortable. You will feel fulfilled. You cannot feel fulfilled without your body. So this whole thing of like, oh, we're so involved, and I don't know. No. All that's going to lead you to do is think that you don't need to go through anything physically. Okay, why do you think like amusement parks, and like roller coasters, like people like them so much? It's because it's involving their body. You need to involve your body or else you're not going to get the full range of experience. Otherwise, we would have just stayed angels forever. There would have been no point to coming to earth whatsoever. Yes, we're being tested as well to see what are we going to choose, good or evil? Like that's it. And are we going to choose help people or be selfish and only help ourselves, right? So yeah, there's that part too. But the whole point is we need to learn how to tame our dang bodies, and then we can have the fullest experiences possible with our bodies that we can never have as just an angel. Think about it. Isn't that such a cool thought? Like as an angel, you can go through walls, you can go anywhere, you can do anything, you're immortal. I mean, it sounds ideal. Like think of these superhero powers. Why are they so attractive? Maybe it reminds us of what we used to have, and now we're going through these crappy trials with a body that's like way less capable that in some ways than like the angel body that can float around and fly around and go through walls. Hypothetically, I don't know how it actually was, right? But like the spirit I bet you they could go through walls. They have more mobility, and they're immortal, right? So it sounds appealing, but you can't get the full motivation. Like when you do something, when it's hard, your soul is filled. Like it literally feels like after you've eaten and you feel your stomach is full, your heart feels full, like your stomach being full. That's why they compare reading the scriptures and going to church to feeding yourself. They're like, be hungry for Jesus, be hungry for the gospel, right? It's because your heart can get hungry, just like your stomach. You have to feed it. And after you like do good things, and after you, I don't know, learn about Jesus and like fill your soul, or you hear someone speaking in church that just like touches you, and like that's an in-person thing too, is like talking to somebody else in person. When you do things in virtual, like the virtual can be a good tool, but if your whole life is in virtual, you will feel empty. And you'll be like, why? Like I'm doing so many cool things, or like I'm at the top of this video game thing. Why do I feel so empty? I think so, like even streamers, so when they get to interact with other people in the chat, I think that helps because it's like they're actually interacting with people. But think about how much more fulfilling it would be. Like you would remember an in-person event more than a random time in your room. Do you know what I mean? You just remember it better. Like, again, what Jordan Peterson said at the very beginning, it will go into your subconscious and you will remember it. So yeah, that's my point, is you need your body. Don't think you're some evolved creature. Like, sure, you're evolved, but there's a reason why you have your body. There's a reason why you have your instincts, and you should work with them. You should train your body, get it to do what you want by telling it no, by fasting. That's, again, and you will have a rich, full experience if you push your body to the limits. You push your psyche to the limits. You allow yourself to get stressed out. You allow, meaning, like, let's say you're scared to go out in public because you're anxious around other people. Do it anyway. And guess what? You're going to end up feeling so much better in the end if you just keep doing it. But you have to involve your body. That's what I think a lot of people are missing, is that they think that they can think their way or virtualize their way out of feeling miserable. You cannot.
Their body. You know, if you go to a concert, I remember Pat Riley came to one of our, who, you know, owns a piece of the Miami Heat. He was an amazing coach. If you're not familiar with the NBA basketball, one of the winningest coaches in history. Good friend of mine, known him for 30 years. And he came to one of our programs and he said, Tony, this is like the 7th game of the NBA championship, but it goes on for 4 days and it's 13 hours a day.
Right.
So that vibrancy, and most people at the game are cheering at times and not. This is an experience in your body. That's why I do the number of hours. That's
Well, yeah, and think of all the people's hormones and everything else that's going into the air in the atmosphere of something so exciting. And you're feeling that from other people. And it's a physical sensation. And you're like, it's bleh. I can talk. Inexplicable. Inexplicable. And then you're like, wow, there's something bigger than me. You could never have produced that by yourself. So you need other people. So not only do you need your own body, you need other people, and you need to be with other people in person. It's a need, which is why if you're feeling empty because you're isolating yourself, I don't care if you're socially awkward. I don't care if that's a thing for you, that it makes you uncomfortable to be around other people. It is a need, so you need to figure out how you can do it. Make yourself uncomfortable. If you need to study to learn how to be better in social situations, then do that. If you notice that when you talk about certain topics, especially neat topics, neat as in, like what the stereotypical guy that has pulled away from society and is, living in his mom's basement or something does. So I'm talking about tabletop games that are, stereotypically for adult men who have not grown up. I'm sorry. Not the, that's kind of awkward. Not that you can't play that in moderation, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Or video games or those topics. Learn to talk about something that really productive people would talk about. Even if it's fashion, even if it's, you don't even have to be interested in fashion. It's just an example. Or even sports, something that involves your body. If it's all virtual, so if you're imagining these faraway lands and you're playing this tabletop game, that the whole point of the tabletop game is to be virtual. You're even changing your own character who you're trying to pretend to be somebody else, which again, I get it. But again, if you're trying to create a virtual experience, even if it's with other people, it's creating this unreal experience. Let's say there's I don't know, if you're making up a story and you're going through this hypothetical situation. If you're going through hypothetical situations as a logic experiment that could actually help you in real life. So you're for instance, a job interview. If you're role playing with someone to practice for a job interview, or you're practicing to perform in a play or in a movie, if you're an actor or something, or there's a place for simulation and practice if it has an application in real life. Do you know what I mean? So if you're talking about something that's purely virtual, that's purely fantasy, fantasy can be fun, but again, I think that I'm going to say it, a lot of it's for children. As a child, you can use fantasy as an analogy to help you prepare mentally for adulthood. I think that is one of the reasons for it. Or if it teaches you skills, or again, if it's a parable that could actually help you in your real life. But if it's for no purpose, if you're an adult, that's when people get uncomfortable when you talk about that stuff. That's why. It's because it's a childlike thing to do, and that's not the most popular opinion. But even if you're having trouble with girls, if you're a guy, That could be why. So, because you need to have the principle of using your body in whatever it is that you're doing and not trying to put yourself in a purely virtual space all the time. Like if you're perpetually in the virtual and you're neglecting the real world, why would anyone want to pair their lives with you and try to rely on you to take care of them in the physical? Or why would they think that you would prioritize them in the physical if you're not even showing that you're prioritizing the physical in your real life? Because like the vast majority of your life is in virtual. It's kind of just, it feels disgusting to people who aren't in that. And you're just like, oh, why do these girls not like this? Or it's because like girls need the physical. And there are girls who are neats too, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying like if you want like in a normal constructive relationship, you're building something together in the physical. That's the whole point of a marriage. That's the whole point of a relationship like that. Like even friendships, you're maybe doing stuff in the physical that could empower each other, and you could work as a team to go defeat the enemy or something. You know, like, doesn't that sound exciting? No, why would someone want to pair themselves with you and like rely on you like that? I think this is like if you're, some people who are needs don't take care of their houses. And I think that that's a reflection of their priorities, that they're not prioritizing the physical. So if you're in that situation and you feel like you're awkward in social situations because you're this nerd or this neat that does not value the physical in any way, I think the root of the problem and where you should start where you could start, in my opinion, is to value the physical. Make something. And I'm not talking about your characters in your fantasy world or 3D printing those characters or doing the miniatures. That's not what I'm talking about. Find a problem that's in the physical and try to fix it with ingenuity. You may be rusty with it. You know, like, try to find something that you enjoy that has to do with physical reality where you're actually making something. And it can still bring you joy. And then after you've done that, then try to be social. And then guess what? You have something to talk about. And then guess what? You feel more confident in yourself and you can walk with your head held high because you actually did something. Your subconscious knows when you haven't done anything. Your subconscious knows when you're playing in the virtual. Why the heck are you here on earth if you're just playing in the virtual? Just saying. And that's not to discourage you. That's calling you up to value your life and the time that you have here in the physical, because that is the whole point. Okay,
that's why it's immersion. That's why it's multiple days, 4 days or 6 days. And that's why it has the lasting impact. But you're right. The dopamine circuits are actually creating, what's the white matter in your brain? The myelin, right? Creating the myelin.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So if you look at,
the
like you
myelin
look at a great athlete, people look at somebody like, I'm fortunate enough to own a piece of several sporting teams. And one of them is the Golden State Warriors. And you look at Steph Curry, the greatest 33-point shooter in the world. And people look at him and he goes and he shoots the ball from like almost half court, and he's chomping on the side of his mouthpiece, and he doesn't even wait to go. He turns and smiles, and he knows. And then all of a sudden the crowd goes wild and they goes through. It's like, it looks like impossible. Mm-hmm. But where did that impossible?
See that confidence? Maybe you don't have that confidence. How do you get it? By practicing, by doing stuff in the physical, by accomplishing your goals, by doing stuff. You have to train your body. It's going to suck in the beginning because your body is like a young puppy that doesn't want to listen to you and just wants to like grab on whatever's going on and put it in his mouth and go, like just rip everything to shreds or run around and be a heathen, right? Your body wants to do that, okay? Your body's like a young puppy. You have to train it over time. Line upon line, precept upon precept. You're not going to be good at it. But once you've trained your body like you would a puppy, which is going to take months, maybe years, you're going to feel that sense of confidence. I promise you that.
Come from. He built the myelin over and over and over again, so it's hardwired.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows exactly what to do. Now, how do he do that? This is the part that we all forget. I always tell people, when you see people who are amazing in public, they're being rewarded in public for what they've practiced massively in private.
Yes.
So here's his plan.
Why are people like this rewarded in public? Some people don't think that sports or whatever else like matter, and they're mad. They're like, "Oh, these people haven't done anything," or even like famous people that inexplicably get why am I struggling with these words? Inexplicably, maybe that they go famous, and you're not really sure why, but because they did like one thing or whatever. People deep down know. Like if someone's really confident, it's like, oh, maybe they don't deserve all this fame. Like why aren't I? Maybe they actually did stuff and practiced.
Just take 15 years in the NBA. That's all he's been there. Greatest three-point shooter in history. Nobody even close if you're not familiar with the NBA. He practices 500 shots a day, every day, 7 days a week, bar none. That's 35. Right.
And that's someone who's talented already. One, if you're talented and you think that you can't practice, or you think you're not going to work on that, or that you shouldn't, I think especially with girls, they'll try to play it as in, if something goes right, they'll try to play it off as if they didn't actually put that much effort. Like the higher status thing is to make it seem like that you didn't put effort into it. It's almost like for some girls, if they admit that they tried hard at something, it's like they lost. But that's not true though, right? Even if you're talented, practice. If you're not talented, practice. And probably practice and focus on what you are good at. Because that probably will lead you in the direction of where your life is supposed to go. Like if you have weaknesses, like get them up to the point where you can at least like be functional if it's a need. Like let's say you suck at cooking, at least build it up to where you can at least make your own food and, at least, have good nutrition and whatnot. But like, it's okay if you're not going to like try to be the top chef, but let's say you have like a crazy talent. Like, I know a guy who has the world record in balancing eggs. I've met him randomly in person, and he's a cool guy. But like, he has this random talent, and guess what? Like, he's like kind of famous for it. He has like the world record in like balancing eggs, and he's been invited to different countries, right? So whatever is your talent or that you're somewhat good at, go harder on that. Too many people think that they should just focus on improving their weaknesses, and then they neglect their strengths, and guess what? They become mediocre adults at best. A hyper-talented person that never works on their talent will become mediocre. There may be an exception like a savant or something, but like someone who's just pretty dang talented in general will become mediocre very quickly as that person grows up if they're not working on it. But you have the potential to be fantastic and go above and beyond. So, discipline your body and do that.
500 shots a week. It's 168,000 shots a month.
Right.
500 shots a week.
2.52 million shots, not forget his college career, just in his professional career, so that he can make 3,300 three-point shots and be the greatest in history. That's less than 0.1% of the time was it compared to his.
Well, why was he the greatest in history? Because he put in that much effort. Yes, he's talented. And you're talented at something too. So you can be the best in the world at something. And it could be pretty abstract too. Do you know what I mean? Like, just go where your heart, where like your soul is like pulling you towards, right? That'll give you a hint at least about where you should start. But like all that effort, just put in the effort. There's hope for you. It's not too late. Like so many people have become successful, like even past 90. I think like what Abraham was like 80 or 90 something before he even had his first kid.
Practice.
Right.
So
Right,
the
right.
wiring in him is so powerful, but it doesn't just show up. Hope and
Oh yeah, if you want to be powerful, there's an interesting thought about how you can become powerful. If you feel weak, put in the reps, put in the consistently over many years. And I think too many people want instant gratification and they underestimate what they can do. If you're not getting results after 5 years of consistently doing something, it's probably not what you're meant to do. I'm just going to say that. And it's probably not where your talents are, and it's not the direction God wants you to go in. So if you can honestly say that you gave something 5 years and it amounted to absolutely nothing, or you were worse off for it, then absolutely drop it and move on to something else. That's my advice.
excitement are wonderful things, but you need competency as well. And in order to have that, the hope can get you started, give you the drive,
Yes.
the vision, the aim, but you've got to have the execution. You have both the strategy and you've got to have the execution that's practiced so it's in your nervous
okay,
system.
so let's talk about that, because
Yes.
you talked about eliciting motivation over a long period of time. So I'd like to know more about
Or I would
how
even
you,
say the word, if I may, drive. Because
Yep.
motivation,
I think drive, like for me, it's like after feeling super empty, like when you know that emptiness, and then you also know how full your heart can be. I think going after that fullness of your soul, what your soul calls you to, and what like makes you kind of like lights up that fire inside you, makes you excited. And I don't mean excited as in just like, oh, wow. I mean, like, it makes you feel competitive. Like, you're like, yeah, like, I want to win. Like, you're like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, when you really after something and it's like, you want to win it and it's exciting to want to win. Not you want to win and you're scared or whatever. It's like, you just feel this like motivation, like, yeah, like when you listen to, or like when you watch a certain show and then like some like movies that like guys will watch, or like it's like they're in the army and they're going off to battle and they're just like, yeah, you know, like that kind of like feeling of just like, do you know what I mean? Like, or like when you see someone winning, or like it's high suspense and you want them to win and you're just like, oh, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? And then like at the end, when they win, it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that is the feeling, right? You can have that. Isn't that cool? But yeah, they talk about how to do it.
the reason I use it, it's like a warm bath. You should probably take a bath, but it doesn't last, right? You should still do it. But drive is like, everyone is motivated. If you're overweight, you're motivated to eat, right? Come on. I want to find out what drives you, because if we unleash your drives,
what
not
drives
my
you
drives,
towards the right aim.
That's right. What is it that will unleash you? That's
Yeah, and this feeling, like this drive, isn't about what you should do. It's like about, oh, like I want to win. Like it's what like gets you off your seat. You're like, what's gonna happen? Like you're just like that. I think that's what they're talking about. It's not just like, oh, you should do something and you're just be motivated and, you know, just be disciplined. And it's like, no, like the drive is like, oh, like I'm gonna do this. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? And then like you do hard things because you're just so, like you have that feeling about it. I don't know how to explain it very well. Sorry if that's confusing.
what this experience is about. That's different than just being motivated.
Okay, so let's walk. Okay, so I have an exercise that people can do online called future authoring, and one of its steps, and I'd like you to tell me how this compares to what you're doing in your seminars, in your events. So it's a conditions of satisfaction exercise, or it's a meditation and contemplation exercise, or it's a prayer. You could think of or a request for revelation. But here's the idea. So it's
Isn't that interesting how a lot of religion, especially Christianity, anyway, and success principles, they overlap so much. Ever notice that? Ever thought of that? Something to think about?
You imagine for a moment that you could have what you wanted and needed in 5 years. Okay, but there's a condition. You have to know what it is and you have to specify it. Okay, now then the question would be, well, how are you going to discover that? And the answer is, yeah.
I think a lot of people don't think out 5 years out. So I think what he's talking about is a super useful exercise. And yeah, I think that would be fantastic to do.
Ask yourself. It's like, okay, like what would, it's like the Viktor Frankl scenario. Even hypothetically, what would get me out of the bed in the morning on a very, very difficult day?
Yes.
Like, what could I imagine
That's
could
the thing.
come
We'll
to
keep
me
you
in
up
my
late,
life?
get you up early.
Do you know what it could be? So if you're just like, oh, if you're thinking to yourself listening to this, that, oh, I don't have anything that I can think of that would actually get me out of bed. That's why I'm not getting out of bed. Right? So I think that, okay, like, yeah, it's good to try to think about that. But do you know where I think it really comes from? It comes from actually going and doing stuff. So like going to new places, meeting new people, and having these new experiences. So from what I know, when we came down to earth, we went through the veil to make us forget everything. Okay? So I think that it's correct to say that our soul, our soul is in here, and we already know a lot of things in our soul because we researched a lot and we did a lot to prepare to come down to earth before we came down to earth. So for me, it's like our job in some sense, as far as this motivation thing is to discover what we already know on the inside. And how do you unlock that? Through experiences with our bodies. So this is interesting. Just thought of this. It seems to me that the spirit and the body together are the key to unlocking that. But also doing something like innately fulfilling, even if it's simple, like going for a hike. So that's something to think about, is that if you're struggling to find what it is that's calling to you, you need to go out and, I don't know, follow your intuition, follow what I would consider the spirit, maybe pray and ask Heavenly Father to guide you. Go out, with listening to the spirit, have experiences, sign up to make things, I don't know, like pottery or learn to weld. I don't know, like do something physical. And that physical thing, like life and physical things, teach us about those things. They're literally like teaching tools. When you look at something and how it works, you're like, oh, and that truth that you learn from something physical also applies on like a psychological level. It's interesting. So like success principles are universal on multiple levels. So yeah, if you're struggling, go and discover it, but you can't discover it sitting in your room by yourself. You have to actually go out, make yourself uncomfortable and make things. And then you'll open up the possibility of you accidentally discovering it. And it could take a lot of time, but at least that's a higher probability that you'll find that thing that is calling to you than sitting alone in your room. But make sure you're doing stuff that you actually like. Like if you can't stand it, as far as like literally it repulses you or like you have zero interest in whatever the thing is, like at least be able to enjoy it a little bit. Like if you're so out of practice with enjoying like basic things that you would actually do with your body instead of entirely virtual things, even if it is talking, if it's trying to imagine only virtual, like if you're just out of practice, but you still kind of enjoy it a little bit, or you can get yourself to enjoy it. That's what I mean. Don't force yourself into something that's completely separate from your nature, if that makes sense.
Make you feel fully alive.
Yeah, well, and what would make you persevere in times of trouble?
Exactly.
Is even a more direct question.
Yes.
Okay, so...
And by the way, I find, tell me if it's the same for you, it's not just the aim or objective, it's strong enough reasons. In other words, somebody say, I want to make $1 billion, but they don't do it. And they even vision, they get excited about it, $1 million, whatever it is. I want to have 3 perfect children. I want to write a book, whatever. The secret is reasons come first, answers come second. Once I know what I want, I got to figure out why.
Yes.
Because purpose is stronger than object. So the object may inspire you, but what's going to keep
Yes.
you going is strong enough reasons when it's tough. What
Yeah.
are the reasons? Okay, I want this money for what?
I think, as far as the strong reasons, I think too many people opt out of marriage and opt out of kids because of the responsibility. But what if that responsibility literally becomes your reason? And actually fulfills you more than you ever thought it could. That's what I'm talking about, being like a child. How lots of video games and lots of make-believe stories and stuff is appropriate for children.
Well, I want to provide a home for my mom. Well, that's very different than I just want to have this
Yes, definitely.
pieces of paper with pictures of.
Well, yeah, and as an adult, you're supposed to build stuff. The whole point is in childhood, you're learning the absolute basics, and you have to learn things in virtual because you're in, like, your parents are trying to protect you. You're too small to go out and take those big risks. Okay, so you can get some sense of fulfillment in that, in some of those virtual things, because you're literally starting from zero. But when you reach adulthood and maybe even teenagehood on some levels, I think that could be when it starts, actually, is like mid to late teenagehood, when you need to stop doing those things. That, like, once you're big and strong enough to actually start executing on these things that you've learned is when you need to start doing that. And you need to walk away from the virtual. Do you know what I mean? And again, it will make you feel fulfilled. Your soul being empty may make you not want to be on this earth anymore, if you know what I mean. However, having your soul filled makes you okay with leaving this world when it's the right time. It's two totally different things. One's miserable, and one is full of love. Which one do you want?
Dead people on it, right? And
Yes.
People say, I want money. They don't want money. They want an emotion. They want an impact. They want security, or they want freedom, or they want to be able to contribute, or they want to do something they think money will give them more choices on, right? They don't want the money. So I'm always trying to dig underneath to figure out what is the
that's the
deeper-
substructure.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay,
That's the
so-
surface desire.
Right.
And many people focus on the surface desire, not knowing enough reasons to follow through. That's why New Year's resolutions don't work. 91% of them, I don't know what the latest statistic is, people don't follow through after 3 weeks. By the time they're hearing us speak, if they had New Year's resolutions, they're gone because they don't have the reasons to push through and they don't have the strategy. It's wonderful if you say, I want to see a sunset, but if your strategy is start running east as fast as you can, I don't give a damn how positive you are. It's not going to work. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a combination of that aim, those values, that drive you and I are talking about, that ignite, enough reasons for it, and then the strategies to execute, because you'll eventually find your way there, but the speed at which you do it is if I believe in modeling. I believe success leaves clues. My original teacher, Jim Rohn, taught me that. He said,
I believe that getting a mentor for that reason is valuable because strategies are true. Like there are legit strategies, and success has universal principles. So, success principles in sports apply, like those basic principles apply also to business, apply also to success in marriage, apply also to success with your children, etc. Right? I do think that different people need different strategies. I believe that there is a spiritual reality that's going on in the background that we cannot see. A spiritual battle of sorts, right? There's good and evil. And have you ever heard the concept of a stumbling block? Okay. I think, and they talk about this in like church and stuff. I think that most people think of a stumbling block as maybe something that they do themselves that ends up hindering their progress. So like, for instance, if you become an alcoholic, yeah, you're going to have a hard time doing certain things, and someone could consider that a stumbling block. However, I want to introduce another concept of a stumbling block that may be useful for certain people. One way that I've seen a stumbling block manifest in my life and in my husband's life is when one of these universal principles does not work for you. It's not that it's not true. It could be a stumbling block, even out of no fault of your own. So what I found from one of my stumbling blocks, even with success principles, I was raised with success principles because my parents had a lot of them. And yet, for whatever reason, a lot of them didn't work for me. Or at least like a major one didn't, right? So I found out that there was a limiter placed upon me, a stumbling block placed upon me to make sure that success principle wouldn't work when I tried to apply it, in order for me to learn a lesson that I needed to learn in my life. And not like, oh, you're bad, you need to learn a lesson. It's like something that I just was blind to, and I didn't realize that I couldn't see it. And so he wanted to show me pain. He wanted to show me the other side, like being unsuccessful. He wanted to show me that side so that I would learn the true value of being successful, because I think I actually did take it for granted. And to learn the value of other things that the world doesn't always see as successful. Like more intrinsic things, like family, like children, like nurturing other people. I had to learn that. And the only way that I could learn it was, or at least the way that Heavenly Father wanted me to learn it, was by putting a stumbling block so that I could not become successful even with the correct success principles. So if you are doing everything right, it could be that you are just missing the lesson that you should be learning from this. And then once you learn the lesson, or you build someone else up to a certain point to where you've learned how to build someone else up, and that could be your lesson, is how to build someone else up, right? At that point, that stumbling block may be taken from you, and then all of a sudden you can succeed with that. So I think people can get frustrated because they don't know. Like, it's kind of like a video game, I'm not going to lie. Like how you have stats and you have, like, let's say you get a status condition where if you do a certain thing, you get burned, or, you know what I mean? Or you have a -5 on your stamina. It's like an artificial thing that was put on you, on your character. But like, it's in the code behind the scenes. I'm saying that the spiritual things are basically like the code behind the scenes. There is stuff behind the scenes on a spiritual level. Your stumbling block may prevent you from following through on some of these success principles so that you can learn certain lessons. So I think that's, being positive and trying to learn lessons through everything and trying to become a better person in general is going to be super helpful. But I just wanted to say that because some people may get really frustrated when they follow someone's advice and it's not working. I think if you're running into that wall, look in a different direction and try a different direction so that you can try to learn that lesson that you're supposed to learn. And then once you have found it and you can find fulfillment in something else that you didn't think that you could find fulfillment in, then that door may become opened to you suddenly, and now you're suddenly succeeding in that thing. So I just wanted to let you know about that as well, because it doesn't work for everybody. And it's one of the reasons is for stumbling blocks, right? So yeah. Or another one could be addiction. You have to actually defeat the addiction first before you can move on in some cases. Whether it's addicted to, a multitude of things, right? So you really need to look at okay, what is holding me back? Is it a stumbling block? Is it an addiction? Is it that I need to tame my body more? Like the puppy? Is my body rebellious and it doesn't want to listen to me? Do I need to tame it through fasting and through just following through when you don't feel like it and all that kind of stuff? So look at those things if you're not succeeding, even if you feel like you're trying everything that everyone's been telling you to do. And yet you feel like a failure because you've been trying your absolute hardest with all these success principles, but it's still not working after years. It's because if that's happening to you, you need to look in a different direction. Look around you. What are you missing? Do you need to find fulfillment and meaning in something else first before God's going to let you through the door? So that's maybe think about that.
Said, if someone is successful at anything, they've got a great relationship and it's 20 years down the line and they still do it, or they lost weight and kept off for 10 years, or they went from nothing to not just making money, but sustaining financial security and freedom for their family, they're not lucky. They're doing something different than you are. So instead of you trial and error, which is the standard way in which we learn, you find the pathway to power by finding someone who's done it consistently and produced results. That obsession within me has launched most of the books I've written, most things I've done. It's like, I want to know this book was, how do I help people with the best breakthroughs in health, for example, life force and energy. They take 17 years to go from the breakthrough time to your clinician. Like, how do I shorten that up? I'm going to interview 150 of the most brilliant regenerative doctors in the world, Nobel Prize winners, and find out what they're doing, give it to you right now. Or I'm going to finance. Well, I can talk to you finance about what I think, or I can go interview 50 of the smartest financial people in the history of the world that are alive today and find out, what do they do? And while they're different, I look for what are the common strategies, elements, what is guiding this? And then I can teach that. My billionaire client goes, this is incredible. And the average person goes, this is incredible. Because it's about, it's very much what you do. It's finding the pathway. It's finding the DNA. It's finding the codex of how to go from where you are to where you want to be. But it is more than just the aim. That'll start you.
Yep.
You've got to have the purpose or the reasons or your purpose. If it's somebody else's purpose or reasons, it won't last.
It's not going to work.
Right?
No,
and then you need the strategies too, because that'll give you the drive, and you will figure it out if you can discipline your disappointment. If you can push yourself beyond what most people give up on, you're going to get there eventually. You're going to keep flexing, but you'll get there 10 times faster.
Yeah, I think if you end up, so as far as like following through with the plan, absolutely. Taking the time to plan things is 100% worth it. And then as you get wins, you get more confidence and you start to build momentum. And that momentum is going to give you more power towards accomplishing your goal. So that's where the exponential curve comes in. It's really hard at first. It's like trying to pull a train. Let's say, a buff guy has a harness on and it's attached to a train car and he's trying to start the train car. Okay, imagine this is you trying to accomplish any goal. Your goal is a train car in this analogy, okay? Let's say it's like that strong guy. What's that going to look like? He's going to take one really slow step, another one, maybe he trips a little bit, and then he has to reposition his harness, and then he goes again and again, right? Maybe halfway through, someone has to replace his shoes because they're so torn up. I don't know. I'm just trying to paint a picture. But once he has been doing it for a minute and he tries and tries and tries, it starts to get a little faster until he's practically running. But when he's running and the train car is going faster, it is easier than when he was trying to get it going from zero. That is the power of momentum and why you need processes and why you need to make it habits. Anything you want to read Atomic Habits if you haven't. But basically in that book, it teaches that if you want to do anything hard in your life, you have to make it a habit. So you take whatever habit you currently have so it's called habit stacking. So let's say you always put your shoes on in the morning. If you want to exercise, put exercise shoes where your normal shoes would go to help encourage you, I don't know, to go exercise instead. I don't know. Or like after you're done eating breakfast, you immediately read a book. So you stack it on top of the breakfast habit. Anyway, there's a lot of videos that will explain habit stacking and atomic habits, but yeah, so make it a habit and then you'll build momentum and you can do fantastic things. Like the scriptures say, through small and simple means, great things are brought to pass. Okay? Like he's not joking. It's small and simple means. Like we're all human. We all have the same amount of time during the day. We all have trials and tribulations. Like a lot of them are invisible to other people, but a lot of people have really serious problems they have to overcome. But I think what some people don't realize is some people have momentum on their sides because they just didn't stop. Other people keep stopping and they don't let it continue. And they're just like, they don't have momentum. So everything is harder. It's not because you're not as talented or that you're not smart enough or good enough. It's that you don't have momentum. So you're literally playing it on hard mode. So if you do it consistently, you can build momentum and things will be easier.
If you can say, wow, there's already a pathway that's been proven. Why would I reinvent the wheel? I'll still bring myself to it, my own uniqueness to it. But there's certain fundamentals that if you do them, you're going to have economic abundance. If you don't, you're going to have pain. There's certain ones that are going to be great relationships.
Stories.
Pardon me?
That's the purpose of stories.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so you said something that I think we could delve into technically too. Okay, so you said an aim isn't sufficient. It'll get you started. Okay, and then you said you have to have reasons. Okay, so let's think that through for a minute. So one of the things we do in this program that helps people rewire their aim is do a multidimensional analysis. And we step people through that. It's like, okay, now you've sort of figured out what you would want and need if you could have it. Mm-hmm. But let's flesh that out. So you could say, well, how would that positively affect your intimate relationship, your marriage, right? How would that positively affect your family? How would it affect your community?
So you're
what would it
making
mean
them
to
come
your
up with
future?
reasons.
Yeah, well, and the reasons, well, then you could imagine this too. You could imagine that, like, in some ways, we're loose constellations of multiple motivations. Mm-hmm. And you want to meld those all together so they're serving the same aim.
The pull.
Yeah. I like what he's saying. I think that too many people who are so focused on the virtual they may not think about all the components that go into the whole in your real life. People who think that video games are more exciting and more like they like video games more than real life, okay? I think what they don't realize, like, let's say there's like a really complicated game that's like, I don't know, exciting or whatever. And, you know, I see these guys, they'll be able to strategize a pretty complicated game. Like, they'll be able to come up with strategies. They'll be able to do hard things in that game. Like, they can win the game with flying colors, okay? But, like, think about life. It has all those factors too, and it's even more complicated, and it's more exciting, and it's more fulfilling. But are you letting your fear stop you from playing the most exciting and wonderful game that there is, which is your real life?
That's
and then you're not
if it's supposed to being pulled apart.
Exactly.
I want to be totally successful and never be rejected. Right. If you're going to be successful on a social scale, that's not possible.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. That's the difference between having a mortal body and being an angel. Is because as an angel, you don't have to worry about being rejected because you're surrounded by other angels. And everyone knows the rules and everyone knows what's up, and yeah, there was a war in heaven between but that was over getting bodies. That's what the war was about, was who's going to get a body or not. Was it the equal outcome people who aligned with Satan, or was it the I want the right to choose aligned with Jesus, right? So yeah.
possible. And so if you have those two conflicts, you're going to take 2 steps forward and 3 back. And that's what we do with people. We have them re-engineer the values so they pull you forward as opposed to pull you apart.
Yes.
Because most of us have so many conflicts. It's a lack of clarity usually.
Yes,
right? There's not
definitely.
a clear aim. There's not enough reasons.
Yeah.
Poor strategy, but ultimately what really stops people, and what I do with people in events, is I find the inner conflict.
Yes, definitely.
The inner conflict is what's keeping them from executing.
Yeah,
and
it means they're actually living out multiple stories
That's
simultaneously,
exactly right.
and they don't have the same aim.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
And that's okay too. It doesn't have to all be the same story, but there has to be some unifying element to what matters most to you for you to live an extraordinary quality of life. Again, life on your terms. What you think extraordinary. Is that 3 children?
I think that's what people get wrong about choosing a spouse. So I don't know, this may be controversial, but I think what they're talking about with like the multi-dimensional factors that lead up to one goal. Okay, so some women may, like if the man is good looking and have a lot of money and they're tall or whatever, and they're just looking at those surface level things, and they're not looking at what are those man's, if I can speak, what is that man's goals? What does he believe? What does he believe about you? Like, I think a wise woman looks at the motivation of the man. And there's some things are obvious to most women on like a personality level or like a psychological level. But I think the biggest thing with marriage is this person aligned with your own goal? So I think, like, how can you choose a spouse if you actually don't even have your own goal in life? Because the whole point of a marriage is to marry someone who's going to build life with you, who, like, you want to choose someone who has similar or the same goals as you. Or if they haven't figured it out yet, they hear your goals and it aligns with what they like and what they want. And they're like, yeah, I want to jump in with what your goals are because, yeah, like that sounds like it aligns with me. So cool. So either they're going to come along with your goal or they have goals that are complementary to yours. And working together, you'll go to the same place. That's like the fundamental unifying force in a marriage is, are you going towards the same goal? So if you're in the dating market, or even if you've given up on ever finding a spouse, maybe think about, it would be, you may actually have a chance to find somebody if you have like a goal that involves real life. If your goal is to win like a gaming tournament or a D&D tournament, like I think reevaluating things would be good for you. Because again, doing things that are in real life rather than in virtual. Like, yes, there are real life events that you can go to for these things, but trying to accomplish something that aligns with real life, I think, is going to be helpful in you finding a spouse. And it's going to give you something to talk about. It's going to give your spouse something to hold on to. Like, oh, he values reality. So therefore, if he values reality in his own life, he's going to value me. He's going to take care of me. You know, if things get hard, he's going to push through and actually accomplish something. Because women will look for potential. You don't have to be absolutely perfect to find your spouse.
Children? Is that writing a book? Is that building a business? Is that all the above? I don't know.
Okay, so
it's got to be on your
Yeah, writing a book would be good. That's a good idea.
terms.
So one of the things I discovered when I was walking through the biblical stories is the book itself is structured in a manner that's analogous to the pattern that you just described. So what happens in the biblical stories is that a sequence of stories are put forward that each circulate around a form of high order goal. So
Yes.
I'll give you an example. So in the story of Noah, for example, the voice of the divine in the story of Noah is characterized as the intuition that calls the wise to prepare when trouble is brewing, right? So that's God for Noah, because Noah is described as a man who's wise in his generation. So he's the sort of person you'd go to for advice. And his ability to intuit is well developed in consequence of his practice of wisdom. And everyone recognizes that. And now he has a
Have you ever noticed that wisdom revolves around reality? There's a storm coming. I'm going to build a boat. You guys should get on. I'm going to prepare because, like, if you're looking out at what's going on around you in reality, then you can be wise and you can prepare yourself, prepare your family, and set yourself up for success. If you're on a boat and you see an iceberg or a giant reef sticking out of the water and you're looking out into reality, you're not on your phone looking down, just floating in the water, letting it take you wherever, and you see it, you can steer the boat to avoid it. Or you can see a pretty cool looking island and you can steer your boat towards it to check it out. Right? So if you want to be wise, get reality. Okay? It's gonna shape your life. If you feel like if you're giving up on life, look at reality and make a radical change. If you're so deep that like you have no friends, you have no prospects, you feel like everything around you is like bleak and you're wondering what your purpose is in life, radically rechange your priorities. Anything that is not grounded in reality and truth, completely put that aside. And you will set yourself up on the right foot to succeed and to get the things that you want, in my opinion.
Powerful revelation or intuition that all hell's about to break loose and he should take appropriate steps. And that's his faith.
I do want to mention this. If there's someone who's like into comedy, or if there's certain things that aren't like building like a physical object, but it's like maybe entertainment value, like I think that as long as you're saying good things or whatever, that goes in the realm of like giving other people hope. Like if you're helping another person by what you're saying or your actions, or, you know, by saying something funny, you're bringing some hope to some people. Maybe even if it is a story, but you're the one creating the story. And not just creating the story so that you can imagine by yourself with that story, but you're sharing it with the world or something, or you're doing something that can give people hope. I don't know. Like there can be fulfillment, but again, you're either building something or going towards a goal or helping other people.
Faith in God, but God in that appropriate steps. And that's his faith in God. But God in that, what the highest goal, you might say, in that story is this intuition of the wise to prepare in the face of disaster. Okay, that's very different than the God that makes himself manifest to Abraham.
Yes.
So Abraham is someone who's resting on his laurels.
I think, yeah, if you rest on your laurels. I want to talk about physical disasters for a second. Because this whole thing about, oh, well, you know, we're so evolved now and we don't need to worry about anything in the real world because we're so comfortable and, you know, whatever. We're such evolved creatures. You know, okay. Have you noticed the natural disasters happening in diverse places around the world? And they're increasing. Again, the second coming is coming. Jesus is coming. Okay. This was predicted. Okay. So if you're still stuck in virtual, if you're still stuck in virtual, okay, do not think that something bad isn't going to happen just because you have your head in the sand. Like a natural disaster. Are you preparing yourself? Are you preparing your family? Are you looking out into the world and strategizing or trying to build anything that would help you in that situation? Are you setting yourself up for success if something like that happens? Are you awake to what's really going on around you? I just want to point that out. Like, physical stuff will happen whether you're looking at it or not. It's a sign of the times. It would be wise to look at that stuff right now.
And who's privileged at the beginning of the story. His parents are wealthy, yes, and there's no reason for him to lift a finger. and God comes to him as the voice of adventure. And God says to him, it's very cool. This is the covenant, by the way.
But yeah, it's adventure. You will have an adventure. It will be awesome if you follow what your soul is telling you to do and you do stuff in reality. And maybe it's helping certain people. And maybe you haven't figured it out, so you need to go to a different place to figure it out so you can have experiences.
And I'm sure you'll see the relationship between this and what you're doing in your seminars. God comes to Moses as a spirit of adventure, and he offers him a bargain, which is the covenant. He says, if you leave your zone of comfort, if you move away from your father's tent, if you move away from what's familiar to you, and you do that voluntarily, and you make the sacrifices necessary as a consequence, this is what will happen.
If you persist long enough, because it took you like 98 to have his first kid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But he didn't give up. He just kept moving forward. It didn't matter if he made mistakes. He kept moving in the right direction.
Yes, and that's partly the element of his faith. Okay, so the deal
that's enduring to the end.
is your life will become a blessing to you. So that's that end.
Yeah. Why should you help people? Why should you try to do good? Because your life will be a blessing to you. You get something out of it in the end. Like you're not denying your body for no reason. You get something out of it, and it's better than what you would have gotten if you had given into your body. Like think of I don't know, like you can do fantastic things if you have discipline over your body. If you just let your body take you to and fro, are you actually going to be able to accomplish anything? You do get something out of it. You become powerful. Okay? And you can enjoy it. You can actually get stuff out of it. It's not all sacrifice. You get blessings. I think people forget that. They're like, oh, but I just want to be happy. I want to do what I want to do. But if they're talking about doing what you want to do should be you're taking your life where your soul is calling you, where God is calling you, where you feel deep down you're meant to be. And you find that by having new experiences until you find it, right? Again, but also like helping people, right? Ultimately, you will be happier with the good route. That's the point. And it will feel better in the discipline route. It really will. It'll feel better. And you'll respect yourself. And you'll like who you are.
It's that antidepressant phenomena that we're describing.
Yes.
So instead of living in misery, you'll live in something approximating hope and security.
Yes.
Right? Okay, that's the...
Yeah. Doesn't that sound good? Like the hedonistic short-term gain of not disciplining your body pales in comparison to like true security of soul and confidence that you can go out in public and not be ashamed of yourself deep down, even if you try to convince yourself that you're not. That you can hold your head up high, that you can put yourself out there better, and that you can actually start accomplishing bigger goals with more power. So yeah, you get stuff out of it.
The first part of the deal. The second part is your name will become renowned among other people and you'll deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, deserving it. So you don't have the imposter syndrome. That's huge. Does that one little hedonistic desire, is that worth it in comparison to respect from many other people? Not everybody, because you can't please everybody. But and deep respect for yourself and deep knowing that you deserve certain things because you actually earned it for yourself. That is one of the most satisfying feelings in the world. If you haven't felt it, do it as an experiment. Discipline your body, accomplish something physical that your body has to be a part of, that gives your soul joy, not just anything, but you know what I mean? And, maybe something that helps other people. See how you feel. Experiment with it. If you've never felt it before, try something that will lead to that. And then you may never want to go back because it's so good. It's so good. Like the other stuff is nothing in comparison. That's what Jesus can give too. Like with repentance is how you overcome those bad habits so you can experience that fulfillment. It's the mercy when you have been on the wrong path and now all of a sudden you want to move your life forward. It cuts the weights off of you. So if you're like, feel like there's weights dragging you down, repentance through Jesus, it cuts those weights off of you so that you're lighter so you can move forward. So try it. It's fantastic. I promise you.
So that's a good deal because people want social status and they want the security and the capacity to cooperate and compete peacefully that goes along with that. It's a fundamental, it might even be the fundamental human aim, but it's at least a fundamental human aim. That's number 2. Number 3 is it'll give you your best shot at establishing something of multi-generational permanence.
Yeah. So many people, I think, don't care about their posterity. Have you ever... Learning about your ancestors can be super cool. If you've never experienced it, try it. Okay? How you feel about your ancestors, and like when you hear that one of your ancestors did something really cool, it makes you feel special. That accomplishment from like however many generations back brings you joy today. Now think about it this way. Your own posterity. Think about this. Are you going to bring joy to your posterity? That same cool feeling that you felt learning about your ancestors, are you going to bring that same joy to your posterity? Even if you're like 80. Or if like, I don't know, you lost something like your arms or something. I don't know. What are you going to do that's out there that's worth something? Like, even if it's just like helping other people with something simple like food and like, what are you going to do that's going to make your posterity proud of you? Or like making decisions so that you can have posterity and that they can be proud of you and that you can give them a leg up to have a better life than you had.
Right. So that's a good deal because, you know, one of the things that people want when they search for what's meaningful is that they say, well, I'd like to do something that lasts or matters.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing is you'll do it in a way that'll be of a benefit to everyone else. So it's not a zero-sum game.
Yes.
And so it's so cool.
Yeah, I think, that's such a good point. For you to win, you don't have to, like, it's not something where somebody else has to lose. Nobody else has to lose for you to win. For someone who's like jealous, they may feel like it's losing, but like they can win too. You know what I mean? There are so many people on this earth. There's enough room for everybody to win. There's enough room. You can put in the effort. And like, it's okay for you to win. Some people feel guilty about winning because someone else is jealous or insecure that they won. It's okay to win. Give yourself permission to win. Nobody else is losing. If they have a poor attitude about it, that's because they have a bad attitude about, like, for people who like hate rich people in general. If you hate rich people as a category, not just like one rich person that you just don't like that one person, but like you hate it as like a whole category, but you want to be rich, you're literally like trying to put yourself into a category that you don't like, so your body's not going to let you do it. Your subconscious isn't going to let you do it. Right? So it's like that type of person. Or there's just people who legit just want to be lazy and leech off of everybody else. That's different. Like, you're allowed to win and others can win too. It doesn't take away from anybody else.
This story, because what it does is align the calling of adventure. So that would be that calling or pull with those 4 outcomes. Okay, but then there's a meta move in the
which gives you more reasons, because we'll always do more for those we love than we will for ourselves.
Right.
That's the beauty of being human. That's humanity at its best, right?
Yes, that's why you want to think through, if you do have an aim, what the benefit would be to the people that you love and to your community.
That's right.
Because it anchors it. Okay,
that's a good thought. Yeah.
Meta claim in the juxtaposition of these narratives, this is so cool, is that the voice that tells the wise to prepare in the time of crisis and the call to adventure are manifestations of the same distal goal.
Yes.
So you could imagine that the ultimate uniting goal brings all the underlying potential stories together.
Yes.
And then that's developed through the biblical corpus. And in the New Testament, that's fleshed out completely, because the claim.
Well, and to figure all this out, it sounds so complicated, but you need to spend lots of time pondering this kind of stuff and experiencing new things. But I think too many people will just distract themselves to death and never give themselves actual quiet time to not look at anything like on a screen or whatever and actually think through their lives. So if you put in the effort to actually think through these things, yeah, you can find that overarching thing. I would argue that that's probably God. Every good thing comes from God. Like, that seems like the universal thing. That if you align yourself with that, all of your personal goals can also align with that, and you can really be successful with that. But like breaking that down in your mind and then trying stuff, experimenting, so yeah.
Claim in the New Testament is something like the embodiment of the Spirit that's characterized in multiple ways in the Old Testament is made manifest as the willingness for voluntary self-sacrifice in service of the highest goal. And that's what's acted out in the Passion story.
Well, that's what I was talking about, of being okay to die when it's the right time. Because your soul is so fulfilled and so full that you're going to a good place. Like you're no longer afraid of death. You may not want to let other people down, like if you have responsibilities, but like it's not as daunting when you're secure like that in your soul.
And that seems to me to be precisely accurate, is that there's that, because you said yourself earlier, that a goal that is only serving your.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because the scriptures say that if you lose yourself, something along the lines of, if you lose yourself for God, then you'll find yourself. But if you try to find yourself, you'll lose yourself. Okay, here's the reason why, is because when you are in pursuit of the higher goal, when you put yourself in those real experiences with your body, you're pursuing the higher goal, you ultimately end up putting yourself out there, you have new experiences, and then guess what? That opens you up to making those discoveries about yourself, to learning about yourself. You otherwise wouldn't. If you're trying to find yourself and you're isolating, thinking about yourself, you're cutting off the opportunity to have experiences that would allow you to discover things about yourself. And you're never going to figure it out on your own like that. You need other people in your life. You need experiences. You need God. You need to go through repentance so you can move on to the next level of disciplining your body and becoming more capable and more powerful. Okay. These are all steps that you can take to improve yourself.
Own, so to speak, narrow and proximal motives isn't one that's going to last. It has to be anchored in multiple ways, and it has to be worthwhile. But there is this insistence I think this is the monotheistic hypothesis, actually, is that there is a distal aim that unites all subordinate aims, and if you can ally yourself with that, you become something approximating an unstoppable force.
100%. And that's where all the energy comes from. Because there's so much. I look at it this way. you can call it God or you can call it life, whatever I prefer God, but still, life supports whatever supports more life. So as an individual with my own goals,
I prefer God too. I think he makes a good point. Life prefers things that make more life. And you'll feel more fulfilled when you do things that promote life in general.
take your bees, the bumblebee could be selfishly going after just the nectar for itself, if you want to call that selfish, but then what attaches to its legs is pollen, and that's why we have more flowers, right? So there's a certain amount of benefit by anyone's individual desire of the Father, right? You know, it's like with that desire is the ability to fulfill it if you can persist and discover. But I found that, I believe, that when your desire is to serve something more than yourself, first of all, you get out of yourself, so there's no more the internal anxieties and fears.
That's for sure.
You're not there.
Well, those are, you know, that concern, thoughts of yourself and neurotic suffering are so closely allied statistically that you can't separate them. So if you are thinking about your narrow self, that's the definition of misery.
100%. It is. It's also hell. Just saying. So you need to lose yourself to find yourself. If you feel like you're failing at life, go lose yourself in something real, in God, in new experiences. And I think that you will be able to turn your life around. Thank you for watching. I hope that you got a lot from this video. I hope it helped you, and have a wonderful day. And like and subscribe if you found value.